Welcome back everyone. Today we will be talking about Victorian houses. We will begin with what Victorian houses are, the features of Victorian houses, and where Victorian houses can be found. Pros and cons of Victorian houses. And an important fact you don't know about Victorian houses. In today's episode of Luxury Homes, we'll be looking at Victorian houses. Now you're probably wondering, that's a strange name, or what are Victorian houses? Well, to answer your questions, let's get right into today's episode. Victorian architecture technically refers to the era and not a specific style. That era was, of course, the time when Queen Victoria reigned in Great Britain, from 1837 to 1901. In Great Britain and former British colonies, a Victorian house generally means any house built during the reign of Queen Victoria. Many architectural styles came out of the Victorian era, but the two most famous of the Victorian period were Italianate and Queen Anne. Both were technically revivals of earlier architecture styles, each has distinct characteristics, but what they have in common is an emphasis on vertical elements. They often stood at 2 or 3 stories with tall windows and porches, and detailed ornamentation that almost bordered on over the top. After all, a running theme throughout the Victorian era was a prioritization of form over function. Here are the differences and some of the two most notable style variations. The Italianate. These homes were popularized first, beginning in the 1840s and lasting until after the Civil War, drawing inspiration from 16th century Italian villas. The main structures were fairly simple, rectangular-shaped houses with low sloping or sometimes flat roofs that protrude quite far out from the exterior walls. The windows are tall and skinny, often rounded at the top, and there is trim, and more trim. Some Italianate homes even feature a square tower or cupola that rises out of the center of the house, adding to the Tuscan villa feel. The Queen Anne. These homes, which were popular in the US from the 1880s until around 1920, are theoretically a revival of the style du jour during the actual reign of Queen Anne, 1702 to 1714. But there is a very little resemblance in practice. Queen Anne homes are the quintessential Victorian home. They are asymmetrical, 2 or 3, or more, stories tall, have steeply pitched roofs, and feature large wraparound porches. They are often adorned with differing wall textures and ornate trim, which gives them the gingerbread effect commonly associated with Victorian homes that are typically painted in a variety of accent colors. Some Queen Anne homes also have octagonal towers, topped with a round pointed roof, and ornate bay windows. Nothing about these homes is subtle. Features of Victorian houses. Victorian homes have captured our hearts for over 200 years now. However, there is so much more than meets the eye behind those dollhouse-like exteriors. This architectural style includes multiple distinct variations that all deserve a critical look. Despite the variance in types of Victorian homes, there are a few defining features that tie this architectural style together. Though each element may not be applicable to all types, here's generally what to expect. Exterior: steep, gabled roofs, round angles, towers, turrets, and dormers, shapely windows, especially bay windows, stained glass, decorative woodwork, bright colors. Interior: 2 to 3 stories, floor plans featuring added nooks, high ceilings, intricate wooden trim, ornate staircases. Where can Victorian houses be found? Now we've heard all about this particular style of housing, the next question that comes to mind is, where can we find such houses? Let's get right into it. Italianate homes are seen in the greatest number in the American cities that experienced exponential growth during the mid-19th century. Cincinnati, Ohio, New Orleans Garden District, and parts of San Francisco, and Brooklyn, New York. Queen Anne homes, along with Italianate homes, are widely seen in San Francisco, a result of it being a boomtown during this time period. The city's most famous is undoubtedly the Painted Ladies, a block of Queen Anne-style townhouses painted 3 or more colors. They were used in the opening credits for a popular 90s TV show called Full House. Pros and cons. Just like in every episode, yes, they're magnificent houses, but there are always going to be pros and cons. And here are some of the Victorian-styled houses. Pros. Sturdy Victorian houses were built to last, and the fact that Victorian houses have been standing tall for decades, sometimes even centuries, proves that they are sturdy structures. By today's standards, Victorian foundations seem very shallow, and in some cases, the concrete footings are no more than 200 mm deep. However, the way in which they were built allows the houses to spread the load across the ground so the weight is distributed evenly. In investment, there's no doubt that Victorian houses are beautiful to look at, and it's this kind of curbside appeal that makes them a good investment. Some of the sought-after features that are associated with Victorian properties include bay windows, stained glass, unique tiles, feature fireplaces, high ceilings. If you are lucky enough to find a property with any of these intact, you'll have little trouble selling it when it's time to move on. Space. Victorian houses often offer more floor space than new builds, as they were built at a time when cities were not so densely populated. Because of this, they tend to be bigger than new builds in the first place, as well as having ample opportunity to extend, for example with a loft conversion or kitchen extension. High ceilings add to the sense of spaciousness. Cons. Upkeep. Older houses require more attention from their owners to keep them in good condition. You may find that you need to replaster the walls, have a new roof, or even address any structural problems that might occur. You'll often find Victorian houses located on suburban leafy streets. If there are trees outside, it's worth investigating whether your property has any subsidence issues, as the main cause of subsidence is pesky tree roots. If you do find subsidence, your property could require underpinning. Victorian houses were made with sash windows that look great but can be drafty. If you ever need to replace these windows in order to keep some of the heat in, it can be expensive. High ceilings and sash windows mean high heating bills, and keeping Victorian homes warm is a notoriously expensive endeavor. Although it can be tempting to replace the wooden sliding sash windows in a Victorian property with double glazed up, it completely changes the look of the house. So if you're going down that road, make sure you explore all your options. Random fact about Victorian houses. These houses, like most old houses, usually have 2 staircases. Here's why. House servants and probably slaves before the Civil War were frequently told to keep out of sight in historic homes. The idea was to build a separate stairway in the back for the servants alone. This is why your kitchen or pantry may have 2 staircases. These back stairs were often narrow and steep, so they were not suitable for use by people who needed help getting upstairs. Some Victorian houses in London include St Pancras Railway Station, the Houses of Parliament, Covent Garden. The Victorians had lots of rules and manners that seem silly today. For example, when a woman entered the room, it was considered rude for a man to offer her his seat in case the cushion was still warm from where he had been sitting on it. They also loved their knickknacks and decorations, and so with their heavy curtains, flowery wallpaper, carpets and rugs, ornaments, furniture, paintings, and plants. A Victorian room could have been quite a squash and a squeeze. It was in the Victorian period that the first flushing toilets were invented. Finally, good news for noses. That's all for today on Victorian houses, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.